Hey there, everybody. This is Ed, and welcome back to another edition of Bagel and Booze. And we've hit April, and it is Easter weekend, and we got a beer review for a beer that, well, while maybe is not specifically Easter, I don't know if there is an actual Easter type beer, but we got one that lines up pretty well. You'll see once we fire up the Beercam as to what I mean. We'll go ahead and we'll cut right into it, and we'll start getting the Beercam up, and we'll start doing our review. And the more you know, let's go. We got a beer here today that, while it's not specifically, I guess, Easter themed, it does, you'll see, we'll get the beer cam up. It'll make a lot more sense. Today we've got, out from Lone Pine Brewing, we've got their Holy Doughnut. What's more Easter religious, whatever, than Holy Doughnuts? I don't know. It's a stretch. What this is Lone Pine Brewing. They're out of Portland, Maine, and they do collabs with a local donut shop there called none other than Holy Doughnut. And with this, what we've got from them today is an Imperial Stout. This one specifically is chocolate-covered strawberry donut that we're going to have. It's Imperial Stout. It's 9%. There's a significant amount of donuts. They actually do brew it with donuts. It's baked in there. It's brewed in there, what have you. So this is kind of an intriguing one for today. Should be a good set of flavors. I always like some chocolate. I always like the fruit. When they blend into my beer, even better. It's not Bagel and Booze unless we've got the more you know moment. So today's the more you know moment. We got donut, the Holy Doughnut. So we're going to go something down the donut. I kind of, looked at it that could kind of sit here and talk about the donut and the history of it and what have you. But we're going to go specifically with what is missing from the donut, and that being the donut hole itself.
We see the donut hole has a hole in its center. It is not a donut hole, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not a hole at all.
We do have a donut hole, and it is a donut hole. There's nothing smaller. There's nothing else inside of it. But what is a mystery is the origin of the donut hole itself. It's a bit murky, but there is a general consensus out there that it originated in the mid-1800s. The donut proper, if you want to call it that, the donut proper, the one closest to whatever we got of a modern type of donut, kind of comes to us here in the Americas with the Dutch. They bring over what's called the oliekoek, or it's translated roughly as oily cake. And they're basically nothing more than balls of deep-fried dough. Well, how do we go from these holeless dough balls into the modern-day donuts? Well, like I said, that comes around the mid-1800s, specifically when we have a 15-year-old sailor from Rockport, Maine, by the name of Hanson Crockett Gregory. Hanson, at this time, he worked as a crewman on a lime trading schooner, and his mother made these deep-fried ball doughs, but she used nutmeg and cinnamon that came from her son's trading cargo and mixed them in with lemon rinds. Don't know about you, but those sound kind of disgusting. What she did in the middle of these cakes was she would put hazelnut or walnuts in the center where the dough usually would not kind of cook or fry properly, and literally that's how we get the term dough nuts. Nothing fancy and nothing shrouded in mystery. It literally is just nuts in the middle of the dough. Go figure. Hanson would take these cakes to sea with him, and it is, according to legend, fact, or whatever you want to call it. I guess you can't have legend and fact, but Hanson himself is the one who kind of said this, and it was on June 2nd, 1847. This is the date that he, quote-unquote, invented the donut hole. And how he did this was he claims that he took the cover from the ship's tin pepper box and used it to cut a hole in the middle. There's plenty of other things where he ripped out the middle to stick it on the wheel of the ship during a storm, and it got skewed on other things. But he kind of supposedly comes clean in the early 1900s and said that it was this tin pepper box that he did. And the reason why he did this was because, again, as I said, for the reason that his mom would jam nuts in the middle of the dough cakes, is just even without them, the centers didn't fry completely. The edges were great, and once you got past those edges, you just were left with like a greasy mess in the middle. He kind of thought, what better way to do this than just to cut out the middle, get rid of the greasy middle, the stinker part of it, and just have the good parts of the fried dough. So that's his story, and he's sticking by it. So when he returns to shore, he gets a local tinsmith to fabricate the donut cutter, and thus is born the Maine style donut. The donut, I know I said I wouldn't talk about it, but we're going to, because it kind of comes into play, because the donut gains a foothold in World War II when the Salvation Army's donut dollies, it's a little bit of a tongue twister, serves the Maine style donut to American doughboys. Interestingly enough, the term doughboy, it actually goes back to the Civil War, and it's a derogatory term that the cavalry would use towards the foot soldiers. We kind of fast forward a little bit. There's not too much to fast forward out from the mid 1800s, but in 1920 we get a Russian refugee by the name of Adolf Levitt, who invents the automatic donut making machine in New York City. And then this leads to the creation of the donut chain store, with the first one being Krispy Kreme in 1937. And that kind of spreads out the popularity of the donut, that specifically this Maine style donut, out across America. So in 1920, as we said, the donut machine was born, and a year later, Hansen dies. It's in 1948, the National Bakers Association recognizes him as the inventor of the donut hole. And I guess if you want to call it as pure coincidence, the town where Hansen was buried, in Quincy, Massachusetts, this is actually the home of the first Dunkin' Donuts. This is the first place where Dunkin' Donuts opened. In 1982, its owners actually paid for a headstone, which apparently had been non-existent on Hansen's grave spot for about 61 years, if I'm doing my math correctly. So there you go. Even if you didn't want to know, now you know the history of the donut hole. Who knew? I didn't know. I now know. It would go as a big surprise, but National Donut Day is none other than June 2nd. Like we said, the supposed day that Hansen said he, quote unquote, invented and punched that hole in the donut, thus living it in infamy. So with that, it's obviously time to get this beer poured and start our beer review.
I drink and I know things.
So we got everything all poured down, and as you kind of see, as we would expect with our Imperial Stout, we got nice dark coloring to it. The head to it, it's nice setup on it. Actually, it's pretty heady on this one. Don't know, bad pour or whatever. We'll credit my crappy pouring off of this, but it sets up very nice on this. So we'll go ahead and give it the old sniff test, and we'll see if we get our chocolate, we get our donut flavoring off of this, and see how it goes with that as we get through the head of the beer. So I do get some chocolate off of that. Not really getting a lot of strawberry that comes through. Not too forward on any of the strawberry, but I definitely do get some chocolate flavoring and some overtones in there. So we'll go ahead and give it the old taste test. So at first taste, nothing. Oh, there we go. So the very first taste, there was not a lot of stuff that kind of came through, but as just saw shortly thereafter, we did get a little burst of flavor, and I do get the chocolate coming through. I do get the strawberry coming through off of that, and there's something quite else in there. I'm not really sure what I can put my finger on. But we definitely do get, that is a good blending of the two flavors. Balances up very well. It's almost kind of like eating and tasting a chocolate covered strawberry donut. I don't know what else to kind of say about it, but they set it up very nicely on here. You know, in connection with it. And you know, there's not much bad about it. Like I said, there just is a slight something. I don't know what it is, but there is something in there. I don't know what it. But you know, I get the chocolate, I get the strawberry. There's something else just sitting there. I can't put my finger on it. As far as it goes, in line with other stouts, it sets up very nicely. It's well balanced. You know, even despite that, you know, just little something that I'm not quite sure about. Maybe it's just me. Again, I'm partial to some of the chocolate and the fruit flavorings that we get in a lot of the darker beers. You know, we'll go ahead and we will give this one out. You know, from a rating, we'll give it a 4. We'll give it a 4.5. You know, just that, like I said, there's that little something in there. I'm not sure what I can put my finger on about it, but overall, you know, it sets up very well. And with that, you know, we'll give it off the 4.5. You know, there's not really anything wrong that I can find with it, but you know, I think if I just didn't have that slight taste to it that I'm not sure about, we would probably rank it up and we'd probably give it a 5 out of 5. But for now, we'll go ahead and give it the 4.5 out of 5. So we'll give one more taste test just to kind of double check. And yeah, we get the good swig of chocolate in there. So yeah, we'll leave it at a 4.5 out of 5. So with that, we're going to find out now because it is that time, and we're going to find out if it will chug. So obviously we come to that time on Bagel and Booze to find out if our beer will chug. I'm going to venture on the side that it probably will. We've only had a few when we've got like a real kind of weird flavoring to it. Who knows? Maybe I can't do it, but we'll find out. So let's see if it changes anything after we do that. If we get any more intensity on that flavor, maybe that unknown flavoring that's in there will kind of come to the forefront, and I'll finally figure out what it is. So with that, it's time for bottoms up. So I guess, surprise, surprise, it is chuggable. I'm not getting anything else different. Actually, I don't get really any more intensity like we've had on some of the other times when we've done our chugging. We get some of the flavor profiles will really come to the forefront. This, still the same. Still get that balance of the chocolate. I still get the balance of the strawberry. It doesn't really change anything. That unknown kind of quantity in there, it's there, but it doesn't really intensify on anything. So it doesn't detract anything, so obviously we're not going to knock anything off of it. But, you know, regardless, it's chuggable. It doesn't change anything out on that. You know, if anything, we get more of a highlight of the chocolate and the strawberry that comes through on that. You know, there's nothing negative to, you know, kind of chugging it. So with that, obviously, this is done. I'm done. We're done. And again, I thank you for tuning in for another edition of Bagel and Booze, and we will catch you later. Thanks all.